We are the Arcturian Collective. Hello and namaste.
Namaste.
You have our unconditional love, and we thank you for your willingness to co-create with us in this moment of your time. How would you like to interact with us in this now? How may we be of service to you?
Well, yes, I was here 2 weeks ago.
Yes, nice to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to meet you again.
Yes.
Last time I was struggling a little bit with my sacral chakra and the flowing energy in most of my body.
Yes.
Is it flowing more now? I feel I have done a lot of work since that time.
We feel that you're much more connected, at least. How do you feel yourself about it?
I feel much more connected now.
Yes.
And it's like I just have to sit and wait, and everything will come to me, and like it's flowing.
That sounds like a good strategy to us.
I have a little question about mind, body, spirit.
Yes.
Actually, about physical, the soul, and the spirit.
Yes.
Because I see much of my task in my lifetime is to unite mind, body, spirit.
Yes.
Unite the masculine, feminine, and unite everything around me, included parallel universes and past and future life.
Unite, balance might be another word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Short and precise.
Yes.
Can you maybe you have a little bit information about maybe something like that can help me to unite and balance myself?
Yes.
And also unite the mind, body, spirit, to
Yes.
make me understand it.
Yes. We are quite curious to ask you a bit, how are you balancing your male and female energies?
I'm using a lot of yin yoga.
Yes.
So I'm connecting a lot of my feminine side.
Yes.
Also stretching a lot in the tissue, where a lot of feelings inside the body are stuck, and we're releasing it.
Yes.
Little by little in these yoga classes, and doing a lot of meditations.
Yes.
To balance myself, and I try to balance my sacral chakra.
Yes.
And I also try to understand actually how to react to other females.
Yes.
And also men,
Yes, exactly. It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, is there anything specific you are wondering about? Because in general we think you're doing a good job, and what you're saying, that makes a lot of sense. It is really about the integration and the balancing of these energies. In a sense, once you can unite the paradoxes, or you can balance these energies fully, we would almost say that's almost just one of the important lessons of being human. And once those energies are more and more integrated, and you understand that polarities always can be, always have a middle, and they can be transcended by embracing both of them, even though they seem paradoxical, then in a sense the transcendence of the duality kind of creates the space to move on to other incarnations, and to, in a sense, move to a whole different field of new experiences, maybe not even needing to incarnate in a kind of human form.
What was this last thing you said now about not incarnating in a human form?
Well, often a soul starts a certain amount of cycles in a lifetime, or it splits, in a sense, in different time zones, in different bodies, in different viewpoints. But the soul itself, through all those different lives, it tries to kind of get an experience, and then kind of to balance all of those experiences out. So you could say it becomes, in the beginning, you get very high highs and low lows. It's, if you look at it as a sea, you have very strong waves, and this can be very exciting, but it's also it causes a lot of new waves as well. But once you learn to balance it, the sea in a sense becomes stiller and stiller. And then once everything is balanced, you could almost say that you're at the end of the human experience, because you've learned how to balance all these waves you've had mostly through having all these different experiences. And then once you've had all these experiences and you've learned to balance it all, then in a sense incarnating in a human life becomes less relevant, because it isn't that interesting anymore. The Buddhists refer to this as enlightenment. Even if you have it balanced, you could choose to come back, but there might no longer be a need to. And simply as a light being, you might start to explore other fields, other frequency layers, where you can get new information and new experiences. Just like we are no longer embodied, you do not necessarily need a body to gain experiences and to learn and to grow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
So this has very much to the enlightenment.
Yes.
Can this compare to the enlightenment, for example, to Buddha?
To a degree, yes.
And how the energy are flowing freely inside the body, and you're just being and accepting and understanding.
Yes. After you kind of see that it's just a game to balance things, then instead of doing, you start to understand more that instead of doing and trying to change the external world by your doing, people learn that it's really just about you and your own frequency. And by being, by embodying a certain frequency, you will actually attract what you need to experience. And after having done that for a while and understanding that beingness in a sense is, we wouldn't say more important, but that it is the primary thing, then the game of life becomes, for a certain amount, it can become very fun, because it becomes a lot easier, since you kind of do not resist anymore what is around you. You simply focus on yourself, and by being totally comfortable with yourself and being totally balanced, it really doesn't matter that much anymore what's happening in your external world. And in that sense, if you can be balanced within, despite what happens in the outside world, that in a sense could be called the ultimate test of if you have understood this game. And yes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I understand more and more that people are trying to change the outer world.
Yes.
And in astrology, that I like to learn and do a little bit, but I do less and less with it because I understand it.
Yes.
That the Aquarius, the star sign Aquarius, in the personal level, are trying to change the external or outside world.
Yes.
But the Aquarius in the soul or spirit level are accepting the outside world, and then it's more into this parallel universe.
Yes.
And you are tuning into that parallel life or world that you want to live in.
Exactly.
And then you are changing it in a much greater and faster time. Then try to accept. Then if you're not trying to change the other people around you, because that takes so long time, 7
It takes
billion,
a long time.
7 billion people.
It's like painting the mirror, trying to adjust it to what you like, while if you simply accept that whatever shows up in the mirror is somehow of service, and it's always in that sense, what it's really about is, in a sense, the external world could be seen as a kind of 4D hologram, like 3 dimensions and then some time. So this hologram kind of plays out all these scenarios. You could see it almost like a computer game, and once you've gone through all the levels, you kind of understand, okay, I know how it works, and then you can just reside in this inner peace, in a sense, despite what happens on the outside. And then, in a sense, it's game over or time for the next game.
Okay. Like I have felt sometimes, 3, 4, 5 times in this lifetime.
Yes.
Lifeline, this parallel, my parallel universe.
Yes.
That I have did it also in when I was high on mushroom.
Yes.
It has also I have also experienced this a few times when I'm just grounded and not high.
Yes.
And just to be natural. That I felt like the other people inside the room had it. I felt that I was them.
Yes.
I felt that they was me and what they was thinking, and at the same time the same persons at the same room. I felt that they was having the same experience at the same time.
Yes.
And then I felt, wow, this is like a really sick game, It's like I'm just talking to myself, and they are just giving me the reflection that I need to all the time,
That's totally true, and in that sense, we are also a reflection of part of yourself. And so are we all in that sense. So sometimes you could almost say that we are a reflection for you to talk with your own higher self.
So you're in a way just a reflection of my higher self?
Well, in one sense, everybody is a mirror of everybody else to a degree. And we're all part of all that is. So it's much more that it's all one thing with different viewpoints. And so you can use your reflections to reflect to you what you need, or what might teach you, what is relevant for you in the next step. But in that sense, also we are a reflection of you, and you could say you are in a sense a reflection of us.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. But this is what I'm trying to a little bit understand, and that was why I asked the question about mind, body, spirit. Because if you are a reflection of me, and I am a reflection of you, and you are a reflection of me, but we are in the same time separated and have
on some level.
But is that because of my consciousness?
Well, it is in a sense because it's interesting from the all that is, because it gets to know itself through new perspectives. So in one sense that is actually fun and useful. It kind of creates these new points of identification. So you create a new discovery of yourself through a new perspective. So that actually grows all that is. So your life is in a sense a unique experience of remembering itself. And this can go from, sometimes in certain pretty big circles of multiple lifetimes. And that is in a sense a fun game. You could say almost that it's all that is playing hide and seek with itself. So it gets all these new perspectives, and every one of these new perspectives is in a sense somehow expanding all that is. So it all helps all that is to become more of what it was, if that makes sense from your perspective. So a lot of this is also just words. Like once you have experienced as you have, that you can actually embody other viewpoints as well, then you get a kind of experiential knowledge of this idea. how did it work for you? What did it do for you that you had these experiences, that you could take in the viewpoint of other people for a while?
My experience, my feelings was that I felt that I was starting to be crazy.
Okay, yes.
Because this is it, you know, then I felt like I'm a little bit I missed the English word, and I felt like I was in a way somebody are tricking with my mind, or
yes.
somebody are I'm just
a bit of paranoia, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit paranoia, and I felt like there was somebody has fooled me.
Yes.
You know?
We can get very attached to our own viewpoint, so then it's a bit scary to suddenly let go of that, because we're so identified with that in a lifetime. So that can be understandable, yes. But to go a bit back to your question about the soul, the mind and the body, in a sense how we see it is that your physical body could be seen almost as a diving mask. So it's a tool to experience physical reality and to have an experience in this crystallized layer of consciousness that you call physical reality. You could almost say it's a bit of an avatar if you want to compare it to a computer game. And then, so in that sense, it's your set of clothes to dress up in, to be in this world and to have this experience here. And then your mind, to a degree, is the software. So if you would see the body as the hardware, your mind is in a sense a bit the software, which is a bit more flexible, and it takes in ideas about your surrounding, and in a sense it simply calculates your survival or your game that you're playing here. So it helps you take in information, and then it does calculations with that, so that it can kind of learn to map the field a bit and start to plan out the future, if you want to look at it that way. And that can be very useful. And then your soul, your higher self, because you are in a sense all these parts, you are not only here. A large part of you is still connected to your soul and is in a sense non-physical still. And your soul sometimes, and this is a bit dependent about how open your mind is, because if you build a lot of beliefs and belief systems, then you can get very crystallized, and it's harder for your soul to connect you with information it might have. But if your mind is open enough, so you are flexible enough in your thinking, you don't have a lot of very strong beliefs and belief systems, then sometimes your mind can actually start feeding you experiences from other viewpoints. So you suddenly can connect to other lives in this time, in previous times, in future times. So you can suddenly start to connect to these other parallel lives you are leading. And it will only do this, or it will mostly only do this, if this is somehow relevant for you. So sometimes you have an issue here, or you are curious about something in this lifetime, and then another lifetime you've had a similar experience that might somehow be relevant for your experience here. And likewise, your struggle or your experience here might be somehow relevant for that other life there. And then your soul can set up an exchange of information, and you suddenly start to connect to one of these parallel lives, and you can kind of gain this information. It is good to know how this works, because if it then happens, you don't need to become afraid. It's simply a logistical way of how your higher mind can divide information. Because on the soul level, you could almost compare it a bit to the internet. Everything is connected there, and you can then download for this lifetime what might be relevant for you. And likewise, you can sometimes upload information to other lifetimes that could use that information. Does that answer your question, or would you like to know more about this?
I understand what you said, and I'm also starting more and more now this week,
Yes.
last week, to connect more with the past and future life, and
Yes.
to see them and feel them more.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the thing is just to break through these programs or the crystallized things that are blocking me to have this opportunity and have this open channel.
Yes. It's a bit of, there's a couple of factors, but one of them is that you in a sense need to be open enough. So, and we do sense that you are open enough in a certain way. It's not that you're very stuck in certain belief systems and beliefs. So you're not very rigid. In that sense, we feel that you in a sense have already, especially if you train this a bit more, you could do some regression therapy. See if that works for you to get it a bit more out there. But we feel in a sense that that you have a high potential of connecting to those lives if we reach your frequency where you are now. But another factor is that it also needs to be somehow relevant for you, and it isn't always relevant. But if you feel that there is a sincere desire to connect with these other lives, then that in itself is an indication that it probably is relevant for you. So then, yes, it should be possible to connect to those other parallel lives.
If it's relevant. Okay.
But do see it as a kind of like a fun thing. It's not something that you need to experience. It's not something that's important in a sense. But it's more that if it's useful for you to have and your perspective is useful to another, then it's simply an exchange. But in a sense your soul tests you a bit as well. So if you have this experience and you go in a sort of slight panic, like, uh-oh, am I going crazy? What will often happen then is that your oversoul will kind of tone that down because it doesn't want to disturb you. It doesn't want to make your life more difficult here. So understanding how these things work and understanding that it's safe and that it's in a sense very natural once you reach a certain level of evolution in your soul, then you can be more relaxed about it. So if you feel excited about it, simply ask your soul, like, could I connect to other parallel lives? Often this happens through dreams as well, but it can also happen in meditations, or you can do some guided self-regressions. So you could both invite it in your dreams and also see if you can do some exercises in your physical reality here, and then kind of see how it goes. And if it does happen, then simply relax about it and say, oh, that was fun. And once your higher self sees that you're able to integrate those experiences and that it actually helps you raise your frequency instead of that it kind of throws you off balance, then you could open up to more and more of these experiences.
Yeah. That's true.
Is there anything more you would like to know about this? Or
yeah, it was a little bit about the channels inside my body, you know.
Yes.
I was looking a little bit in that is called human design.
Yes.
This is also a little bit astrology, Kabbalah mixed mapping of the body, physically. And I have one big opening that is called 6124 or something, I think it was.
Yes.
That is a connection to understand thing. But I also see that I have a lot of other channels that are not open.
Yes.
Is it some channels physically through the chakras, or that I should work more with to balance the mind, body, spirit more?
In a sense, yes, that would be the answer, but sometimes you can also get too specific. So what we generally recommend is to simply follow your excitement, follow that joy, follow your bliss, how some people have called it as well. Because once you do that, your whole energy starts flowing. And in a sense, exactly the logistics of how it all works, it can help, and especially eating healthy can help. So detox, eating healthy, detox your body as much as possible so that your energy can flow as freely as possible. That really helps. But simply by following your joy, following your excitement, then automatically you align those energies, and you also then grow your consciousness. And then what happens is that you automatically, in a sense, align what is relevant for you. So we would almost say sometimes it's a bit like it's the holistic way of doing it. Sometimes when you go like, oh, it's chakra 5B here is a bit off, then you kind of focus too much on the details instead of on the whole car. So if you see your whole body as simply a carbon oxygen machine, and understand that if you drive to your next thing that is exciting for you, then automatically the whole system will function well. So don't get lost in the details, we would say. But having said that, in general, what works well is to take care of yourself, both on the physical level. So avoid as much poisonous food at all cost. So eat healthy, eat clean. Then it also helps to keep your body fit. So if you can work out or do some energy work that feels good to you, do that. Also work on your mental body or on your mind, how you would like to say it. So there are techniques to investigate stressful belief systems, for example. There are techniques to learn to forgive yourself and others. Again, we feel that on this point you are already pretty clean, but just to keep it in mind if something comes up. Reading books, listening to podcasts can also be a useful thing. Focus on, if you want to know more about reincarnation, for example, in parallel lives, read a couple of books, see if you can find some information on YouTube, and feed your mind in that way so that you can get a belief system that is as much aligned as is useful for having these experiences in practices. Because if you have a belief system that you understand how this works, then those energies can come through much easier and they won't get blocked and trip in other parts of your mind. And then on the soul level, it really helps what you told the channel before, doing things like Qigong, sometimes some breath work, sometimes meditation. So by working on all these different levels and including following your joy, following your bliss, then you can really steer your ship in the direction where you want it to go.
Yes, thank you. I have also some questions. I don't know how much you can talk about this, but you probably some.
We can always explore.
Yeah, it's a little bit astrology because I'm so into that, you know.
Yes.
And if you know the Chiron is the wounded healer.
Yes.
The mythology. That is said that when you understand your Chiron,
yes,
you're wounded, the thing that the soul wanted to solve, that is connected to parallel life, future and past life.
Yes.
Then you automatically starting to see your parallel lives and understand anything, and then you balance in the ocean that you was talking about, you know.
Yes.
And this is the bridge between the physical and the non-physical.
Yes.
That is called the Rainbow Bridge in the Buddhist philosophy.
Yes.
But I have learned that it's also more centaurs that have in a different that it has a different frequencies.
Yes.
So this is like it is called Polos, Apollos, the wife to Chiron, that is Chariklo, and other also Orcus, that is said is the meaning of life.
Yes.
And also some other centaurs that I don't know, that I don't remember the name of.
Yes.
But this, it is said when you understand these energies in these asteroids, then you are able to go through the gateway of Pluto.
Yes.
And I understand that is when you truly are becoming free from much of this physical body.
Yes.
But can you say something about this, so I can understand it in another new way? Or?
In a sense, it makes... The channel is not familiar with the terminology that much, but it makes sense to us how you explained it to us. So it's generally a way of mapping out certain energies. Again, we wouldn't get too hung up on the details, but the idea of the wounded healer makes a lot of sense. It's often that people who choose to align and who choose it as a mission to help humanity align often choose to incarnate in a certain way where they get some issues early on in life so they can learn to heal that, and in that path of healing, and then later on, having healed that, they can actually be of service to others. So the individual healing can be brought to the collective, to heal the collective. A lot of the other stuff, we would say, is very connected to what we discussed before. The centaur can be image of the integration of the body, mind and the soul. Sometimes, especially if we go into the kind of Buddhist areas, and also in your Western thinking, sometimes we think that we are just the soul, and then we kind of look upon the body as being almost animalistic, and on some level we kind of divide a bit from it. So we deny the animal part of us, and so we picture ourselves with an animal body and with a human head of logic and rationality. So in that sense we sometimes split that a bit. We kind of start to deny the centaur that we actually are, because we are a fusion of a physical body with a mind. So the centaur itself is a symbol of, in a sense, integrating that body, mind, soul level, and to accept all those parts of it. Not to deny the human self, not to deny the body and the urges it has, like the desire for food, the desire for safety, the desire for sex. Sometimes it's good to accept that and give into that, so you respect the centaur. That is what we could say about it now. Is there something more specific you would like to explore about this?
Yes, I had a question.
Yes?
But I forgot it. Let me think a little bit.
There's also, just to add to this, there's this saying in the Tibetan Buddhist line of, if you're in the body of a donkey, enjoy the taste of grass. So it's good to also listen to your body, and if you have certain desires, and as long as those desires don't hurt anybody else and they're fun to other people as well, then it can be good to simply allow that. It can be easy sometimes if people are too much up in their head and are very much also into spirituality, that sometimes it's easy to kind of forget the bodily needs, or even think that it's a bit dirty or it shouldn't, it's not developed. But it is good to, since you have an experience of being a human body, then it is good to really explore all aspects of it. So also the food, also the sex, also the desire for safety, for comfort. Again, find the balance here, but it is good to understand that that is interesting and also useful to explore, if that makes sense.
Yes. So since we all are one, and when you have a Chiron experience very early in your life,
Yes.
that can make you to understand a lot of things to help other people.
Yes.
But it is also a balance to help yourself and help the others. It is said that Buddha didn't go as far as he could because he was helping the humanity too much.
Yes.
Well,
we wouldn't say too much, but he was helping the human collective, yes.
Yeah.
But he helped us exactly as much as he needed to.
Okay.
Not too much or too little in that
Okay.
sense.
But the thing that I meant that
Yes.
it is also important to not forget yourself and just trying to help others and try to find the balance between that.
Yes, absolutely.
But since we all are one, I have one question: how
Yes.
important is it for me to actually help others? Can it be enough just to do myself? And
Yes.
that's it, or
That is absolutely. We often find here that in humanity itself, there seems to be this false dichotomy, like, do I need to help myself or do I need to help others? But actually, if you help yourself, you start to embody a higher frequency, and that automatically will radiate to your surrounding. So by helping yourself, again, not at the cost of others, like not respecting their free will and their freedom to make their own choices, but if you respect their free will and you respect their freedom to make their own choices, by integrating yourself and by helping yourself, you actually also help your collective, simply because you will start to embody these higher frequencies. And if you are in the world, then you automatically radiate those frequencies on one level. Then again, by helping others, you can, in a sense, help their frequency raise, and that will also radiate back to you. So you can do it through either way, we would say, and you can also do it both, because often what happens is that you raise your own frequency a bit, but if you raise your own frequency too much compared to the collective, then in a sense there starts to be a bit of a disconnect, and you could actually start to feel very lonely, because you're vibrating on a frequency that is very difficult to ground, because you have very little people and experiences here to
that can match that.
Yes, that can really match that. So if you, in that sense, it is good to work on yourself, and if you feel very comfortable, then please help others as well. And this is a bit back to the wounded healer aspect. The moment you have healed yourself, then it is really good to share your medicine with the people around you, because then they can heal themselves as well, and then the collective in a sense can shift to the next level, and they can shift to the next issue they can integrate. And if everybody does that, then it becomes a lot more fun, because the dance can kind of speed up if it needs to. But again, it's also good to sometimes take it a bit easy, make sure that you are in alignment, and we definitely don't recommend that you feel that you need to lower your own frequency to help others. So never, in a sense, sacrifice your own alignment because you believe that is what your surrounding needs. That is always a belief system that somehow doesn't really work, or you're dealing with a person that might not fully respect your free will and your freedom to make your own choices, which again can be a service, because maybe you needed to learn to step up and kind of set your own boundaries and borders and be very clear about this.
Yeah, okay, that's good. It's one thing I want to know, because this is also connected in some level.
Yes.
If you are going to elections in the world, when you are doing elections in the land, in the states, and in for example, election in another country, like in America, yeah, how big, how is it? How is the election in another world that I'm not living in? Is it affecting me, or is it up to my belief system? For example, how important is it to me to influence in election in my world, in my land, or in another world? You know, does it?
Are you speaking about elections in the political sense?
Yeah, the political elections.
Well,
because if I have a parallel lifetime that I hold on to, and I want this is going to this direction. I don't want war, and this what is happening to me. Is it important for me to try to change others, or just hold the line?
We generally see your political game as a bit funny, because what you're actually doing is you're electing other people to make decisions for you, which is a very weird thing to do, because in that sense you disempower yourself. So in that sense we would simply ignore that as much as possible and simply focus on what is important to you in your here and now, and what is important to the people around you. And if you then find that you want to go a certain way and that a certain thing is needed, simply work on that. Invest your time, your energy into the things you want to create. Don't ask another person to create for you what you believe you want. Simply start creating it yourself. And then if enough people do this, then more and more people empower themselves, and in a sense elections become less and less important, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. So in a way the elections can
we would almost say if you focus on your own frequency, it generally matters very little what other people elect, especially because in itself it's a hollow thing. It really is, what does the individual, where is the individual alignment, and what kind of actions are these individuals taking to create the world that they want to see. If they believe that they want to see a certain world and their only action is to elect the right person, and they believe that that person is going to do it for them, they're going to find out that it really doesn't work that way, which is in itself a useful experience to gain, because then they understand that you cannot really let another create what you want for you. Also, it wouldn't be fun. Like, why else are you here? It is to experience your own empowerment, to experience your own creation, and to learn how you can create what you desire, and how you can create that what you desire does not ever need to be in conflict with what other people desire. Even better is that once you understand that you can create what you desire, you'll suddenly see that other people that align with that frequency, that align on that desire you have, you will meet each other, because you will become relevant for each other, and then you can start to co-create, and you can sometimes even accelerate what you create and share it with other people that attracted it as well. Again, sometimes there can be some exceptions. If a certain politician makes a ruling and then a lot of people believe in that and they start taking action on that ruling instead of following their own alignment, they can create some difficulty for other people. But in general, if you are in your own frequency, you can always, we would say that in 99.9% of the cases, you won't meet up with the negative effects of that simply because of your own energy. In that sense, we would say trust politicians and elections a bit less, and understand that you have really much more power than you, or than a lot of people think. So start trusting yourself more and start trusting elections less. Is there more on this subject?
No.
Good.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Are there other subjects you would like to explore?
It is always that, but I think it's enough for today.
Good, good. Then we thank you as well.
Thank you.
We again want to share with you that you have our unconditional love, and we thank you for this co-creation. Understand that you invite us here, so it really is a co-creation, and we want to thank you for your openness and your willingness to co-create with us. Then we say goodbye for now. Namaste, and see you in the next now.
Namaste.